King Edward VII's love chair, the royal threesome throne you didn't know you needed to know about, or how to be fat, fabulous, and fornicate like a monarch. Gather round, my delightfully scandalous history lovers, because it's time to talk about one of the juiciest royal relics to ever squeak its way into a Parisian brothel. Forget tiaras, forget crowns. King Edward VII, a.k.a. Dirty Bertie, had something far more interactive in mind when it came to regal accessories. Yes, dear watcher, we're talking about the love chair, a piece of erotic engineering so extra, so outrageous, it makes 50 Shades look like IKEA. Meet Bertie, the original royal rake. Before he was crowned King Edward VII, Albert Edward, Prince of Wales, was out there living his absolute best and bustiest life. The man didn't just flirt with scandal. He took it out for oysters, bathed it in champagne, and gave it a foot rub. Bertie was the sort of man who made Casanova look like he needed a nap. By the time of his coronation in 1902, his waistline had ballooned to a spectacular 48 inches, which, coincidentally, was also the approximate circumference of his appetite. For food, for booze, and for women. So many women. And when you're the heir to the British throne, and also clinically obese from pounding down 5 10-course meals a day, washed down with enough bubbly to sink a yacht, well, logistics become an issue, which brings us to the Siège d'Amour, or how to host a threesome without breaking a sweat for anyone else. Now, picture this, Paris, the Belle Epique, gaslights flicker, perfume lingers. You're in the Chabanais, one of the most elite brothels in France, and upstairs, a private suite with murals, velvet, mirrors, and something even more eye-popping than the chandeliers. Enter the love chair. Designed especially for our Rontunt Romeo by Parisian master craftsman Louis Sabria, this wasn't just a chair, it was a mission statement, a feat of horny architecture. This wasn't your average chaise lounge, my dears, oh no, this was a brocade-covered bunk bed of bliss. Equipped with stirrups, platforms and layers, like the world's naughtiest bunk bed, it allowed his royal thirstiness to engage with 2 willing participants at once, without doing much more than standing still and occasionally adjusting his glasses. So what did this love seat look like? The love seat itself was a marvel of engineering. Part chair, part chaise, part how is that legally furniture. Crafted from polished mahogany and upholstered in deep red velvet, it was built low to the ground with an unusual curvature that allowed for both reclining and, shall we say, vigorous activity. The design featured a wide backrest which was tilted at just the right angle for leisurely lounging and optimum visibility, while the front featured a padded raised bolster, the kind of detail that made Victorian carpenters blush and courtesans very, very familiar with their chiropractor. It wasn't so much a love seat as it was a stage, ready for performance, perfectly lit, and scandalously well used. Imagine if a chair, a saddle, and a Victorian sex manual had a baby. That's Bertie's love seat, crafted out of fine mahogany and probably regret. It featured not 1, but 2 strategically placed openings, one for Bertie to recline like the decadent walrus of desire that he was, and one for the lucky courtesan of the hour to mount like a Cirque du Soleil audition gone horribly, gloriously right. But wait, there's more. The seat was angled, so Bertie could, shall we say, observe the action, while remaining majestically reclined. No bruised royal knees for this prince. This was the Rolls-Royce of fornication furniture. It was ergonomically designed not for comfort, but for maximum scandal. The back supported Bertie's notoriously overfed frame, while sturdy brass handles gave the lady something to grip during the horizontal polka in a vertical setting. And yes, of course, there were cushions, Red velvet, naturally, because even in debauchery, one must never skimp on style. Legend has it that Bertie had this seat custom made because even he was tired of breaking standard furniture mid-romp. One too many sofas had snapped under the royal rump, and so, like any sensible aristocrat, he turned to a Parisian furniture maker and said, "Make me something sturdy and scandalous." And thus history was upholstered. So, how did this royal gadget actually work? Well, imagine our boy Bertie, shirt open, cigar in mouth, porch proudly leading the way, standing upright like a very fleshy man. One partner would be positioned on her back at mid-level, feet in bronze stirrups, because why not gild the kink? While the second partner was tucked below like a particularly enthusiastic bunkmate. The setup ensured maximum pleasure, minimum squish, and just enough support for a man who probably broke a sweat just buttering a crumpet. Honestly, it was ergonomic filth. Other royal shenanigans from the Dirty Bertie collection. Of course, Bertie didn't stop at just one custom sex contraption. That would be tacky. No, and he wasn't defilling upholstery. He was apparently soaking in a copper bathtub full of champagne, cavorting with courtesans, and splashing about beneath a half-woman, half-swan sculpture, like the world's most debauched waterfowl. Because nothing says future king like a tipsy orgy in a bird-themed bath. Where is it now? Asking for a friend? Sadly, or thankfully, the original love chair no longer resides in its former brothel glory. It's believed to have been sold in a private auction in the 1990s to a buyer with deep pockets and presumably blackout curtains. A replica has appeared in exhibitions such as Splendor and Misery, Images of Prostitution 1850 to 1910 in Paris, and another lives at the Sex Machines Museum in Prague, which sounds like a place Bertie would have haunted like a ghost with a half-finished bottle of champagne. Final thoughts. Bertie's legacy of lust and upholstery. Edward VII may have only reigned for 9 years, but his reign of pleasure, eternal. His love chair wasn't just a seat, it was a symbol of decadence, of absurdity, of what happens when royal entitlement meets a serious case of I have absolutely no chill. So next time someone says the monarchy is outdated, just remember, one of them invented a bespoke sex throne to solve a very specific, very jiggly problem. And that, my friends, is history worth sitting on, preferably with stirrups.